Wanted to explore a topic today that I find really interesting, and that is the concept of knowledge is pain rushing in. So, the example of this came from Jerry Seinfeld, and he said, say you've got a piece of furniture in your bedroom and you stub your toe on some sort of dresser. That pain is the knowledge really rushing in. So it's painful at the time, and then the knowledge rushes in, and you don't do that again. So I thought that's a really interesting concept to apply to work. And I know from my own experience, I have made so many mistakes, had so much pain over the years, but out of all of that pain, that is where the knowledge comes rushing in. So I thought it would be fun to get those lessons from some of our team and share those with everybody today. So to kick us off, I reflected on some of my own painful experiences, and of which there are many, of course. And the one that kind of came to mind was maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. We decided to exhibit at a really big industry event. We spent about £30,000, which was massive to us, was really all of our marketing budget for the year. We went over to Vegas and we had this whole experience. And when I got there, I looked at like the stand we put together and the branding and our kind of name of our stand, and we had like events and publishing PPC specialists, and nobody really got it. Nobody knew who we were. People were just confused and just kind of walked past, and we didn't really get any business from it. So it was a huge anticlimax and it was pretty disappointing. But I think out of that, what I really learned is keep things really, really simple. Everyone is very busy. They've got a million marketing messages and all this stuff happening, and nobody really cares about all of the intricate details of you do exactly this and exactly that. Keep it really simple, make things easy to understand, make it really easy for customers to buy from you, take as much of the pain out of that process as possible, and you will get a lot more in return. So expensive, painful lesson, but we keep learning. So pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you tell us about your painful experiences at work and how did you get the knowledge out of that?
I think mine might be slightly different to the other guys. Post-university, started a corporate graduate programme. I worked in a business development team and we would bid on large facilities management contracts for hospitals. So really big kind of RFPs we were completing. A lot of the time when it was approaching deadline for submitting those RFPs, it would involve late nights, sometimes even all-nighters, where the team's just in the office working on these documents before the submission date. Obviously, as the junior member of the team, your job is to kind of muck in wherever you're needed. A lot of the times that was getting coffees and, talking to the printer about getting these documents bound and all these kind of things. It was kind of basic jobs, but I was happy to do any of it because I wanted to feel like I was useful and feel like I was part of the team. The guy that managed the team, that ran the team at that time, certainly had a kind of interesting way of working with people, and I didn't like it. A couple of examples. Firstly, kind of working during the day actually in the office as a team, and his phone rang. He was sitting at the desk opposite me, his phone rang. He picked up his mobile phone. He didn't even raise his head, didn't look at me. Just picked up his mobile phone and threw it across the desk and just said, "Tell her I can't answer the phone right now." So didn't say my name, didn't say please, didn't look at me. So I was like, okay, answered the phone, passed on the message, but I was like, I didn't really like that. And then I remember a second time, late night, it was maybe like 9, 10 p.m. We're in the office, been working all day on it, and we had a long time to go. And he stood up in front of the whole team. It was just our small team left in the office. And he took £20 out of his wallet and again, didn't even look at me, didn't lift his head up, just threw £20 across the table and said, "Go get everyone dinner." Didn't say my name, didn't say please, didn't look at me. And I remember one of the other girls in the team said to him, "You can't speak to people like that, don't be so rude." Kind of half tongue in cheek, but like making him aware like that was pretty rude to speak to somebody like that. So like I say, like I didn't mind at all being the kind of runner, helping get teas, coffees, do all the whatever jobs. But those two instances I just felt were so rude and they were so unnecessary. I think you hear all these people like your Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank and whatnot, that you need to be ruthless in business and you need to be tough and mean and blah blah blah, and I just don't agree with it at all. And I think the lesson that I took from that whole experience was and the lesson I've ultimately taken into building Tag Digital was, at the end of the day, whether you're trying to build a team internally, whether you're trying to sell externally to clients, you're ultimately just dealing with people. It's all relationship building, and you can't build good relationships by being an asshole. That's
True.
my lesson.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome, Jack. So, pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you share your painful experiences and what you learned?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go a little, like, sort of delve back in time a little bit, which is my sort of first marketing role. I ended up running an events program, actually. So I did various sort of things, whether that be attending like sort of conferences as like a little stand, to then it evolved to actually sort of organising our own pop-up shop type things and other events like that. And the pain that I experienced is I'm a naturally terribly organised person, and event organisers will know that does not translate well to successful events. So I used to go in, no plan, straight at it, all the confidence in the world. For a few weeks and months that worked well, and I sort of rode that wave. But then occasionally I could forget something, and it culminated in, I remember being at it was at the XL Arena, and we had just had a really long stand set up. We'd been going for about sort of, started at 8 in the morning, and we were last one there. It was like 11 p.m. Locked all the bikes up, and then I thought, just this random thought popped in my head of, where's the key for the bikes? And no one knew, and lo and behold, the key was 5 hours back in the Midlands, and we had the show opening the next day, and I had to come up with a solution for that, which turned out to be find like some really big cutters to sort of free the bikes. So then it kind of, I still didn't learn my lesson. I still carried on. And another time where I did a very similar sort of thing is setting up a pop-up shop in London. Again, very, very late setup, which probably is linked to poor organisation as well. Put the roller shutters down, and there was something in the way of the roller shutters, so it only went half down. It got stuck, and again, we're in the situation of there's a broken roller shutter that's actually quite an expensive bit of kit, and we couldn't get in. So that is my sort of painful moments.
What's been your learnings out of those? What have you taken from that?
So it was organisation. I think when I first did something wrong in that sort of sense, I went straight away to like really focus in on why did I forget that key, and I took it really personally, and I just thought it was because I'd sort of been spinning a lot of plates in my head, and I just didn't step back and look at the process that was going on. And I think what I've taken forward in my career in digital marketing after that has been, if something goes wrong, because stuff goes wrong in work, that's just the scary fact is no matter the profession, stuff goes wrong. That's right from medicine through to digital marketing, stuff will always go wrong. But the way to solve that is to take a step back, look at the process, and that's where you'll find the most productive solutions to problems. You could look at that individual situation and go, why did I forget the key? Oh, it's because I was rushing that, but it's actually step back. It's because I didn't have a process of planning all the things that I needed to be in the van with me, and an order in which I packed them and where they're going and all these sort of things. And all of a sudden we're looking at the process, and I have a solution to my problem that's far more sustainable.
Thank you for sharing, Jack. Great to hear it. Welcome, Adam.
Hello.
So, pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you share any of your painful experiences and what you learned?
I think probably painful experience for me is throwing it back to the year of 2020, which was a fun year for many of us. A bit probably broader. I think probably people will talk about specific experiences in job roles, like certain tasks or experiences with clients that were difficult. My challenge really came when the pandemic started, where I was actually made redundant from my role. I was a graduate in an entry-level job with a company in Edinburgh, and unfortunately I was, I guess, the first sort of person to be made redundant from there when the pandemic started. And in terms of the pain that you go through with that, when you're a graduate and you leave university, you tend to put a lot of value into your job role. It kind of feeds a lot of your identity as a person at the time. And yeah, that can be difficult to deal with when that's just taken away from you, and you have to sort of rediscover yourself to an extent, figure out what you actually enjoy about work, what you actually want to do in a career. But I think the big lesson you take away from that is when you come into a job role, it is important to I guess, be yourself and to make yourself indispensable to an extent. Like, make sure that you bring value to your employer and your business. And that's like a different level of motivation that you get. I think when you go into a job, kind of like university, you think you have to just follow the rules and slot in and fit a certain mold, and you have to do everything right. Whereas I think the biggest lesson from dealing with that was actually learning, no, it's important to actually try and make an impact and leave something to be remembered by in whatever job you do, because that's ultimately the biggest thing you can contribute to any business. And yeah, it's so important to also just not place total value in your joy and happiness in the job you currently have, because the world can change like that and it can be gone. Some good lessons to take away from that were about motivations in work, how to apply yourself when you start a new job, and also not to totally base your identity and the happiness you find in life in your job title. Find other areas outside of work to find joy and happiness, so you have those things to fall back on whenever life doesn't work out so great with work.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Adam. And yes, totally agree. And you absolutely do that here. And you remind me of one of my favourite quotes from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is be useful. Like, whatever your job, whatever you're doing, be useful, and people don't forget it. So absolutely love that. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
Welcome, Zane. Pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you share one of your painful experiences and what you learned from it?
Yeah, I think it was my second or third job I ever had after restudying and going into marketing and media comms. They didn't really have an onboarding process. They literally said to me, speak to your colleagues will help you, and just learn from them and kind of shadow, but there was no plan on how to do that. And they got me doing live tasks within the first week, and the thing I had to learn was that the criticism isn't always maybe coming from the right place. A lot of the criticism I was getting wasn't constructive, and I was going home and just overthinking everything. And every day I was going into work, I was going in with this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach of anxiety and everything. And I think I was taking it personally and thinking, oh, why am I not doing well enough to do this? I've just finished uni. I should know this. I've got a degree. And I had that kind of degree mentality where you think you should know everything. But yeah, it was kind of a hard learning curve to figure out what was right from wrong within the criticism, trying to learn from it. And I think the way I managed it was speaking to the people that had time for me. All the colleagues were busy doing work. So speaking to the people that had time to help the new guy and develop my own process and use the criticism I was getting to find my own path, and really learning to just switch off when I leave work and not to overthink things. Because weekends for 4 months of that job, my weekends were just me worrying about going into work on Monday. And yeah, it's just really learning to maintain some kind of self-belief and just leave any pressure behind.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and it takes time. So well done you for getting through that period, and I hope you have a much happier experience at TAG. Hi, Gemma.
Hi, Laura.
So pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you share any of your painful experiences at work, and what did you learn from them?
Yeah, so mine kind of follows on to what Zayn was saying in the last one. It was a lesson that I learned very early on and when I started this job at TAG. So it's the same kind of mindset of at uni, you think you know everything, and shocker, you don't. But also I think it's being a perfectionist as well. But I think it's funny because obviously I'm in the marketing team here at TAG. I work with Steph, so there's only two of us in marketing, and we're both very similar in this regard of we're very much probably too much of perfectionists sometimes. So when I started, I was I'm going to spend ages making this one graphic, and this is what's going to get us everything, all these leads, and it's just not realistic. But because everything's so new, everything's flying about in different directions, it was a moment where I was hold on, what are we doing? What is the most important thing we're doing? And how can we do it a bit better? And it's something that I've shared before when we did our AI podcast, our processes. I was sitting listening to a webinar to make a blog out of it. So they were painful at the time because they took a long time, but now it's a really nice position to be in to look back and realise how we've kind of changed our processes, how we've improved them, became more efficient, and just in general realising you kind of have to throw a lot out and just see what sticks. So it's been a mindset shift of what's the worst that can happen, trial it, see if you're trying to come up with some ideas, go for the biggest one and then kind of work backwards rather than being very pigeonholed in what you can do, because you can do anything if you want to try and do it. So yeah, that was my lesson.
That's a great example, Gemma, and you probably wouldn't have even like known the pain of doing that had you not sat through the webinars, written everything out, and then you're like, I need to change this. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great example. Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Laura.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So pain is knowledge rushing in. Can you share any of your painful experiences at work, and what did you learn as a result of those?
First thought that comes to my head is an experience that I had in my first job after leaving university. So I studied like graphic design and done my first job in this kind of small office that they were very much pushing like, you know, it has to be as fast as possible. It's just about speed of the output. It wasn't like constructive feedback. It was always kind of personal and unprofessional. And I think what I learned from that was just like, don't take what people say to heart. They don't know everything. I lost a lot of confidence in that job, and it took a good, few months for me to like be like, who even is that guy? He's not like a part of like my career really. Like basically what he was saying, my point is to not let other people's opinion of me affect how I feel about my own work. So obviously take feedback, take constructive criticism, but when you can tell that someone's sort of like pushing the boundary and being unprofessional and not giving you constructive feedback, it's important to just not let that get to you. So yeah, it's allowed me to like grow to be more resilient, much better at taking feedback now, and just I kind of know what to look out for.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a great lesson. Thanks for sharing, Lewis. So pain is that knowledge rushing in, and thank you to our amazing team for going back into the archives, digging out some of those really painful experiences. Maybe you're fresh out of university, maybe it was your first job, maybe it happened last week, but stuff goes wrong all the time, every single day, in every single team, and that is absolutely fine. It's all part of growth. So we take the pain to get better and get stronger and a bit more resilient and have a bit of fun along the way. So thank you everybody for sharing, and we'll see you next time.